So welcome to our special interest meeting, where tonight we're going to talk about this thorny subject of employment when you've got a balance condition. Delighted to introduce our expert, Tracey Hudson, who is going to take over in a moment. When we've finished the presentation, we're going to go straight into some question and answers. So I think without any further delay, Tracey, I'm going to hand over to you and ask you if you can, well, possibly introduce yourself first and then share screen and go straight into the presentation, please.
Yeah, sure. Well, I can't multitask, so I'm going to share my screen because otherwise I'll forget and I'll be rambling on for ages and that'll be really awkward. Yeah, I'm Tracey. I have a balance condition. It sounds like AA, doesn't it? I'm Tracey, I have a balance condition. But yeah, I've been working in HR for over 20 years. The last 18 years, I've been an outsourced HR consultant. So I work mainly with small businesses. But yeah, I do have a balance condition. I have BPPV and I'm recovering from triple PD as well. So I know what it's like trying to work and have a balanced condition and kind of keep your health on track. And I've also got a couple of kids and a husband and just a very hectic life. So hopefully I know what I'm talking about, and hopefully that'll give you some confidence that the advice I'm going to give you today is pragmatic, because I'm in the middle of it, the same as you. So yeah, so that's me. Oh, there's me. Look, a slide. See, I was multitasking. I was trying to talk at the same time as the slide. And you guys now are all on this screen over here. So if I keep looking over here, that's because I'm looking at you. Right. So let's start off with how you might be feeling right now. So I don't know if you've just been diagnosed with a balance condition or it's something that you've been struggling with for a while. But the experience that I have and the experience that I know others have is that, you know, you might be having more time off. You might be feeling really unfocused because you're just feeling awful all the time and you're just trying to survive your day. So you're not as reliable as you used to be, and you're not focused on the job, and you're a bit slower than you usually are. I get really thinking about, you know, a need to change the environment in which you work. I'm in my office right now, and the lights in here drive me up the wall. I can only be in here for about half a day because then I have to leave because the lights drive me nuts. And it's my business. I need to change that, but I just haven't. But you might be feeling like you need to change your job or change your role in the business because you can't do it as well as you could. And I know one of the really common things that I hear from our clients when people have health issues, it could be a balance condition, it could be anything, but there's that distant, you kind of seem quite distant from colleagues, like you don't do the social stuff, you're just kind of not as involved in the chatter in the office because you're not feeling right and you just want everyone to go away so you can just concentrate on what you're doing. So, you know, you might be kind of feeling a bit unsociable or think that other people might feel you're unsociable. And if you're an employer, this might be how they're feeling. So, you know, your manager or your director, whoever it might be, they probably won't understand what's going on with you because, let's be honest, unless you've had a balance condition, you have no clue what it's like to have a balance condition. So all they see is that you're having time off. Oh, they're off because they're feeling a bit dizzy. Well, yeah, so, you know, they don't get it. So they get irritated because they feel that you're not reliable. They might get complaints from customers or colleagues. So, you know, customers might comment that you're a bit grumpy. I mean, again, I don't know about you, but when I wake up and I've got BPPV, I am really flipping grumpy. I don't want any humans around me. I feel awful and I don't want to speak to people. And that might be coming across to customers, or it might be that your colleagues are saying to your manager, you know, that, oh, they didn't finish that project off, or, oh, they had to leave halfway through the day because they got a headache, or, you know, this keeps happening more and more. So what the employer is thinking, oh, they can't do that job. They're not right for it. How do we get rid? That might be what they're thinking, which sounds really brutal, but, you know, being realistic. I'm quite straight talking. You'll pick up on that. Oh gosh. That's going quick. Right. So Kevin said, what you guys are going to want to know is what you need to know and what you need to do. So we're going to keep this really, really practical over the next, I'd say probably 25, 30 minutes. I'll try not to bore you. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, have you got a disability? And the reason that this is important is because if you have a disability that's defined as per the Equality Act, it comes with certain protections when you have a job. Now, when I say disability, you might be thinking, no, I don't have a blue badge. No, I don't have a certificate that says I'm disabled. No, my doctor hasn't said I've got a disability. None of that matters. It doesn't matter if you're claiming benefits. None of that matters. What matters, and this is only for the purposes of the Equality Act, so don't get too hung up on this, but if you have a health condition that impacts you day to day, and it's lasted or is likely to last for longer than a year, then you've got a disability for the purposes of the Equality Act. So that doesn't have any implications elsewhere. That is just for you to have in your mind so you know whether you've got protections or not. And two people can have the same condition and be very, very different. So, for example, I have BPPV. I probably get, I'd say, 2 episodes a year. So that doesn't bother me every day. Yes, it's going to last for longer than a year, but I can function. If we're just thinking about the BPPV, I can function, I can come to work, I can do my job, I can get around the house. I'm not falling over all the time. I'm not walking into things. I'm perfectly safe. I can function. So I would say that I don't have a disability. But other people will also have a diagnosis of BPPV. And every single time they roll over or move their head, it's triggering dizziness. And so they struggle every day to walk down the stairs, to get out of bed in the morning, to travel anywhere, to go to work, to walk upstairs. So it completely depends on your personal situation and the symptoms that you're struggling with. And the other thing to think about of whether or not you define that you've got a disability, you don't need a diagnosis. And I don't know if any of you have kind of had a similar experience to me. It's that you can go and see doctors, consultants, and they don't really know what's going on with you, and you just feel a bit weird. And sometimes it can take years to get a diagnosis. So if you've joined this group and you don't know what's going on, or like my consultant said to me, oh, you've got a bit of BPPV, you've got a bit of Meniere's, you've got a bit of triple PD, you've got a bit of this, bit of that. Basically, I'm just unstable. That's not really a diagnosis. So if you're in that situation, but it affects you your day-to-day living, I would say that you have a disability for the purposes of the Equality Act. Okay, so let's go on to discrimination and what that actually is. I won't spend too much time on this. I just want to talk this through so you understand what I mean by disability discrimination. So you can be discriminated against at work before you've even been offered the job. So if you go for an interview and the interviewer asks you if you've got any health conditions and you share your balance condition, and then you don't get offered the job and there's no explanation, because usually, you go to an employer, you have an interview, you don't get offered the job, you don't really hear anything about it, and you move on to the next thing. If you don't get any feedback as to why, or their feedback doesn't make sense to you, but they've asked you about a health condition in your interview or as part of that interview process, and you haven't got the job, then you can bring a claim to the Employment Tribunal for disability discrimination, because it's safe for you to assume the reason that you didn't get that job was because you've got a health condition and they're worried about you being able to attend work. So actually employing people is terrifying for employers because they can get it wrong before they've even employed you. And that can be, as I say, through promotions, training. You can be unfairly dismissed because of your disability. And these are all things that you can be discriminated for. 4 different types of discrimination: harassment and victimization, I'm not going to go on about. There's direct discrimination and there's indirect discrimination. So the difference between the two is that if you are directly discriminated against, if your manager says to you, no, you're not having that job because I don't think you're going to be able to come to work regularly because you've told me that you've got many errors and we need someone reliable. That is direct discrimination. Indirect discrimination is where a policy is brought in that isn't specific to you, but impacts you. So in a negative way. So for example, I'm using this example because it came up with a client recently. The company brought in a policy that is that nobody is allowed to use the lift unless they are a visitor or they're using a wheelchair. So that came in as a policy. Apparently it's a very busy lift. There are a lot of stairs in this building, and they wanted to make sure that visitors had access to the lift at all times and they weren't waiting for a long time. That's fine, that's understandable. But if you have a balance condition and you're not confident on the stairs, you want to be able to use the lift. So although the employer wasn't intending to discriminate against you, they have done indirectly because you're not in a wheelchair and you're not a visitor, but you still need to use the lift and you've got a disability. Does that make sense? Nod people. Yay, thank you. Okay. So I just think that's important because in terms of knowing your rights in the workplace, if something happens, if a policy is brought in and it impacts you negatively because of your condition, then you need to be confident to be able to raise that with your employer. And I think a really important thing to mention is that I'd say 90% of the time, employers don't realize that they're discriminating because they just haven't thought about it. So usually these things can be resolved relatively quickly and easily by you just raising it and saying, did you know, actually, this is how this is impacting me. Can we do something about it? Can we change this rule? And usually that gets resolved. Okay, so what happens at work? So let's say that you are having loads of time off sick, or you're coming into late all the time, into work late all the time, or you are taking extra long or more breaks, extra long breaks, or it might be that you've told your manager that you've got a health condition. What happens next? So you would be invited to a welfare meeting. Now, I call it a welfare meeting. Other people call them well-being conversations, or there's all sorts of different names, but a meeting, a conversation. So that meeting is going to ask you how you are and what's happening to see if your employer can do anything to get you to work on time or to get you to be effective in work or to get you to stop having so many absences. But the key thing here is if you're invited, even if it just feels like quite informal, oh, let's have a chat about what's going on with you on Friday. The most important thing you can do is prepare for that meeting. So in a meeting like that, your employer's going to ask what's going on with you and how you are. They're going to want to know, and you are going to want to tell them everything that is going on with you and how it's impacting your day. So what symptoms are you having? Have you got a diagnosis? How does it impact you at home? What can you do and what can't you do at home? What are you struggling with at work? What triggers your symptoms? What, is your environment a problem? What projects are you working on that you're really struggling with? What areas of the business are you struggling with? So everything that you can think of, you need to really prepare for that. Write down everything that you want to talk about. But the other thing is know what you want from as an outcome of that meeting. So like I just gave an example, didn't I? The lights in this office drive me up the walls. If I had an employer and somebody else would do it, I would be saying, please, can we change this lighting because it's awful? Or can we just change the lighting above my desk because it gives me headaches? I would know exactly what I would want from that meeting. So you need to be thinking about it in a similar way. What do you want? There's no point going to a meeting and just not complaining, but explaining what the problem is without offering a solution. An outcome of that meeting might be an occupational health referral or GP report, and I'll come on to that in a minute, because what we really want is an occupational health referral. And if you get to the point where you get a GP report or an occupational health referral, it's really important. There'll be a form that you complete, and there's a box on that form that says tick here if you want to see the report before it's sent to your employer. Always tick the box. It's really important, and I'll explain why. So the outcome of that meeting might be nothing happens. It might be that your employer says to you, appreciate that, thank you for sharing it with me. Now you both know what's going on with you. Actually, that might take off a load of pressure. It might mean that your manager or your employer knows what's going on with you. If you're having a bit of an off day, they just kind of, give you some space and they don't worry about what's going on with you. And actually, now that you both know, you just kind of carry on and see what happens and see how everything goes. So that's a perfectly acceptable meeting outcome. The other one is that you get referred for a GP report or an occupational health report. Now, this is what we really want, is an occupational health report, and I'll explain why. So if you get, what happens is employers, you'll sit in front of your employer, you'll say, I've got this problem, I've got that problem, I struggle with many years, I've got BPPV, I can't walk through a supermarket, I can't use an escalator, I can't turn around quickly, all these things. And your employer or your manager, this is my experience because I work with small businesses, but quite often they sit there and go, oh God, okay, oh, and they just don't know what to do. So what they will want is advice. And their first thought is always, I need to get a doctor's report because the doctor will tell me. That's okay. But what you get from a GP report is a summary of maybe your symptoms, how you presented in the GP surgery, a diagnosis, and a treatment plan. In all honesty, speaking, because I receive these reports all the time, that report is useless to me as an employer because it doesn't tell me anything about what you're capable of doing at work. Are you fit to work? Are you not fit to work? What are you capable of doing? And what GPs love to do, and you'll know this if you've been signed off sick before, they'll write lighter duties, which means nothing to an employer. What on earth does light duties mean? What does lighter duties mean? So, so it is one option, and it gets you some advice if you're good at asking the right questions. But in my experience, they're usually pretty useless. And that's nothing against GPs. It's not their job to write reports like this. So what we really want is an occupational health report. And most small businesses don't have an occupational health team. If you work in a corporate, you'll have an occupational health team and you'll just get referred to them, and this will be part of the process. But if you're not in a large corporate, then you'll be in a small business who doesn't have an occupational health team, but there are loads of occupational health companies out there who will do assessments on you as a one-off. So when you get what happens with occupational health is you will have an appointment, usually like this, sometimes in person, and an occupational health report is better because they will talk through your symptoms, exactly what's happening with you, how you're feeling, how you feel at work, what triggers you, what can you do at home, all that stuff that I was talking about before. They'll go into a lot of detail. Their knowledge in terms of how you manage your condition is going to be better than that of a GP, because this is what occupational health do. So they are going to, at the end of that report, instead of just writing light duties, they will have very specific recommended workplace adjustments that you can have that report. The report will be sent to your employer and you can sit down and talk through that report. So you've got a medical professional saying this is what's going to help them. You know yourself what's going to help you, and you can agree with your employer then what you do and where you go from there. The bit that I was saying before about ticking the box on the form, on the authorization form, you have to give your authority for your employer to write to your GP or to refer you to occupational health. They can't do it without your permission. So, but the box on the form says, do you want to see this report before it's sent to your employer? You always tick yes. Now, usually when I talk this through with employees of my clients, the employees go, no, I don't need to see it. I've got nothing to hide. It's not about you've got nothing to hide. What it's about is you need to get that report, read through it to make sure that the advisor that's written it has interpreted what you've said in the right way. that they've explained your scenario in the right way, that there are no inaccuracies, and that the adjustments they're recommending are what you talked about and what you agreed would be reasonable. So you aren't able to amend that report at all. Once it's written and it can't be changed. But what you can do is you email back to the occupational health advisor and say, there are some inaccuracies here, and you list the inaccuracies. And then that email legally has to be attached to the report to send to the employer. So at least you've got an opportunity in writing. So it's a really good audit trail that says what your intention was in that meeting. Now, it's rare that these things are wrong or misinterpreted, because the assessment that you have with the advisor is very thorough, but it happens. So it's just good to make sure you're in control. You want to see the report before it goes to your employer. So with the bottom one, ill health dismissal, this is quite, it's the thing that people worry about. If they're going to say to their employer, I've got a health condition, or they're not going into work, they worry that they're going to lose their job. Now, you can be dismissed for ill health, but there is a process that your employer has to follow, and you should never, ever be surprised if you're dismissed for ill health. So that process needs to be, to dismiss you fairly, they need to get medical evidence. So say you went to go and see occupational health, and they couldn't come up with any adjustments that would work for you in the workplace. You can't come to work on time every day. You're struggling to come to work 5 days a week. There is a phrase that HR people look out for on occupational health reports that says unlikely to return to work, or unlikely to be fit to work in the foreseeable future. Now, that's the magic phrase. If that phrase is in your report, it's likely you'll be dismissed, but because obviously the employer can't employ you if you're not able to come to work all the time. But what would happen is you'd sit down with your employer, you'd discuss the report, it would have that phrase in there, you would have a chance to talk to your employer about what that means. And if there's no alternatives that you can come up with, then an outcome of that meeting is that you get invited to another meeting, and you'd get a letter that warns you, in this meeting, we are considering terminating your employment. So it should never come as a surprise. You should never get a letter and go, oh my God, they've fired me. Now, I have seen it with small employers. Sometimes that first welfare meeting that I talked about 10 minutes ago, they sit there and go, oh my God, I can't cope with this. We're going to have to let you go. That happens. It's rare, but sometimes employers do panic and go, oh no, we're going to have to let you go. I can't deal with this because it's too overwhelming. That would be an unfair dismissal. So if that's the situation for any of you guys, then we can talk about that a bit more. You can put a question in the chat if you want to, and we can talk about that a bit more. But ill health dismissals are rare. Usually employees tend to resign before employers get to the ill health dismissal stage, because they don't want the pressure of going into work all the time when they really can't get to work, and it's the pressure of having to phone in every day or having to keep in touch every week and sending in fit notes. So you tend to find that people resign before you get to that point. But it is something to consider. It isn't a meeting outcome could be that we start an ill health dismissal process. Okay, why isn't my screen moving down? Oh no! Why is my screen not moving? Oh, there it is. Now it's going to move down a million times. Right. So let's think about reasonable adjustments. If right at the start, I talked about, your employer might instigate a welfare meeting because you're struggling to come into work. But actually, you might be coming into work every day, 5 days a week, doing your job brilliantly and really, really struggling and suffering doing it, putting your health last. So what you could do, and this is if you've got a disability, one of those first slides I talked through, legally, your employer has to consider workplace adjustments. Now, what you can do is put your request in writing. So you can send an email to your manager that says, I need to let you know this is a health condition that I've got. This is what I'm really struggling with right now, and this is what I'd like you to do. Now, if you've got an occupational health referral, occupational health will put this in the report anyway, so you don't have to worry about it too much. But if you haven't got an occupational health referral, one of the requests that you put in might be that you ask for an occupational health referral, because that really does give you the best support possible. But in that request, you've got to provide relevant information. So don't be really cagey. Don't just kind of, I don't know, say, oh, I've got a balance condition and that's it, and this is what I need. Be open, be transparent, share what it is that you're struggling with, because that's the best way that you're going to get support. Explain how it affects your ability to do your job. Explain how it affects your ability to attend work. So, and I'm just going off my experience, but when I wake up, you know, do that rollover in the morning thing and I get BPPV, I'm not getting to work for 9 o'clock. I need to come in later. I need a couple of hours. I've got to do the exercises. I've got to, so it, you know, explain it if that's the case, if that's the reason that you might come in late. They just need to know what's going on for you that might mean that you can't come into work regularly. And it's a legal obligation for them to consider these adjustments. So it's a legal obligation for them to consider them. It's a legal obligation also for them to provide reasonable adjustments. And that's the key word. The key word is reasonable. And I'll come on to that as well. So here are some examples. So, I've just said flexible hours so you can start late if you wake up with BPPV. It might be that you struggle with stairs, different screens. Quite often we see that a lot in occupational health reports, that people need parking spaces close to the entrance. If if you can't walk near a wall, you really struggle. But all of these, I mean, you can read them. I don't need to read them out. A key one though actually is an awareness session for colleagues. So actually, and this happened not too long ago with somebody who struggles with Meniere's, but they also have epilepsy, and their Meniere's was triggered by stress, as was the epilepsy, and they just wanted the stress would be taken away if colleagues knew how to support them if they had an attack in work. And quite often, just actually telling your colleagues what's going on with you and what support you need if you feel unwell can remove so much stress. So it's just one to think about. And also thinking about triggers, what triggers you at work, and changing, if you can have your tasks changed to avoid those triggers. And sometimes that's walking in a particular place in the factory, for example, or it might be a specific task that you do that triggers you. So I know a reasonable adjustment we have in my business here is that if ever we're doing something on a shared screen, I get to be in control of the mouse, because there's nothing worse. It makes me feel absolutely awful to watch a screen moving, somebody scrolling or going up and down. If I'm not controlling it, it just makes me feel travel sick. So that's an adjustment we have in my team here. But the key thing, as I said before, it's about what's reasonable. So what's reasonable in a small business is not, sorry, what's reasonable in a large business might not be reasonable in a small one. So an example might be, you want a lift installed because you can't cope with the stairs. Well, in a large business, you might already have a lift, so it's fine, or they might have the funds to pay the 20 grand it takes to install the lift. In a small business that works in a serviced office building that the business owner doesn't own, they don't have control over that. So that would not be a reasonable adjustment. Therefore, the employer doesn't have to do it. So it's up to you and your employer to sit down and work out what's reasonable and what's not. And if there's a dispute and you believe something is reasonable and they're saying it isn't, then there's a whole legal process we follow about raising grievances. And I haven't got time to go into this tonight, but if ever that's an issue for you, then you can get in touch and I can tell you what you need to do. The one of the biggest arguments that employers have for not putting in adjustments is cost. Now, especially if you get an occupational health referral, if in that occupational health referral it says, I don't know, that you need a different monitor, because it's a vision thing. You need I don't know, you need something, you need different equipment, you need different lighting, you need whatever. If it's in an occupational health report, then your employer can contact, there's an organisation called Access to Work. And Access to Work, if it's come through an occupational health advisor, will fund some of that, sometimes 100% of those adjustments. And it depends on the condition, and it depends on the circumstance, and it depends on the business. And the business has to put a case together about why they can't afford it. But it's absolutely amazing as a resource. Access to Work is brilliant. They have done, specifically in terms of balance, somebody who really struggled with driving their own car, and they had such anxiety about using public transport. So Access to Work paid for them to have a taxi every day to and from work. I mean, that's an amazing benefit. So I think that's really worth looking at. If your employer ever says to you, we can't afford to do that, Access to Work. Talk to those guys. You can phone them. They are incredibly helpful. And that could get you what you need without it having to cost your employer anything. So if cost is ever an objection, think Access to Work. I get asked, should I disclose my health condition? Because there's an issue, isn't there? If you disclose your health condition, then you might be treated differently. If you don't disclose your health condition, you might be looked at as difficult or unreliable, or I don't know what. I know a lot of people don't like to disclose their health conditions. I hate it. I hate it. I don't want anyone to think that I've got any sort of weakness. I'm a superwoman who can do everything. That's not the reality, but you know, it's a challenge that people have, and I'm very empathetic with it because I'm exactly the same. It's totally your choice. If your health condition doesn't affect your ability to do your job, you don't have to disclose it. But if it does affect your ability to do your job safely and you don't disclose it, and then you have an accident at work, so that accident could have been prevented if you'd have disclosed it and they could have put safety measures in place, then you could lose your job. You could be dismissed for gross misconduct, serious breach of health and safety. So I would say that if you've got something that you know your job is going to impact or you're going to struggle with, then I would say be open and honest and disclose it, because then you're covered under the Equality Act. You've got protections from discrimination, and it's a trust thing, isn't it? If you're upfront with your employer or your manager, they're going to trust you that they're going to be honest with you. It's a conversation I have a lot. That's why I've put this slide in here. But I really think you've got to be safe at work, so make sure that you disclose anything that might put you at risk or put somebody else at risk if anything was to happen at work. Massive risk is that you tell your employer you've got a health condition and they say, oh, I haven't got time for health conditions, we're going to have to let you go. It's a risk. If they do, you can claim unfair dismissal and discrimination, but you know, hopefully most employers aren't like that. So hopefully this has all got you to the point that now you understand your position, your rights, what you're entitled to, what you can do, what you need to think about. Really, the point is, you know, be your own advocate. You know best. So if any of the adjustments that your employer wants to put into place don't work for you, speak up, because you've got to be really selfish. If your health isn't right, you need to protect yourself, and you do when you're at home, so you need to protect yourself at work. So, you know, my advice is that speak up, be open and transparent, make it clear that you want to be a good employer, you want to do a really good job, and these are the things that you need in place to help you do that. And I think if you're non-confrontational, then it makes things a lot easier for you and your employer. Oh, we like free, don't we? So I put this slide in because it's just some of the places that I think that, you know, we deal with regularly that I think are brilliant. The website links are all there. I know you're going to get a copy of these slides, so you'll be able to see them. EASS has a really good advice line, as does ACAS, as does Disability Rights UK. they're all really good. Disability rights is really good for if there's a dispute at work. They're really, really good in terms of their support. Access to Work is the government scheme that I've talked to you about already, so that's a link to the webpage if anybody wants to have a look at that. And the Association of Disabled Professionals, again, has got a really good advice service, so you can call them, and all of these services are free, which is really good. And please don't be put off by the word disability or disabled. It doesn't mean anything. But if it affects you day to day, you've got a disability for the purposes of this free support. There we go. I'm going to shut up, Kevin. You talk.
Lovely. Brilliant, Trace. That was excellent. I'm just going to talk through this last slide, and then we're going to go to the Q&A session. But really good presentation, really clear, and I'm sure it's going to spark off a few questions, because I think one of the general things with this area, it's always trying to understand how the regulations translate into real life and whether it's a large or small business. But thanks so much, Tracy. And Tracy has just finished the presentation, but her work has not finished with the group. So I just wanted to talk you through this, where we're going to get, we've already got pages on dealing with anxiety and claiming benefit allowance already on our website. We're shortly going to get a new web page covering employment with balance conditions that Trace is going to help us to pull together. What we will do there is be requesting any members who can give anonymously stories of their own experience, good and bad, of what's happened in the workplace. Because remember, this is just to help us all, if ever we hit these problems, to understand our rights and what we can and we can't do. A really generous thing by Tracy. She's agreed to give one-to-one general advice to any members, and that would be done by emailing myself first. I would then put you in touch with Tracy, but that's a superb service, because I can't stress enough, when we're struck down with a balance condition, we're often at our lowest we've ever been in our life, because we don't know what's going on. And the last thing you need is then the threat of losing much needed income, and life's just getting really awful and there's no one to turn to. Well, now we've got Tracy, where she can give you advice on what to do, what not to do, maybe who to contact to get specific help. So that will be brilliant. And then the final bit, Tracy kind of touched upon this, where it can be tricky on how you engage with your employer. And what we're going to do is create a downloadable PDF that introduces balance conditions and how that may impact in a workplace. And it's kind of a crib sheet you can print off or share electronically with an employer if you wanted to, where it's come from the support group, not from you. And it could be the beginning of a conversation you want to have. One of the things it will put in there, and I'm sure Tracy will correct me later if I'm wrong, my understanding is if you should be unfairly dismissed and it was shown to be discriminating against disability, unlike a lot of tribunal awards that are limited relative to your salary, there is no such limit on those awards. And I think that's key to let employers know this, that it's well worth getting it right with you. It could save them an awful lot of money in the future if we all work together. That's it, Tracy. If you can stop share screen now. Yay, lovely. But thanks again, Tracy. That was brilliant. And Rupal, if you want to, you're on mute, that's it. So Rupal was hiding what I didn't even notice Rupal was there at the beginning, so apologies. Rupal is now going to manage the question and answer session. And I think we'll begin with anyone who's got a burning question, if they can digitally put their hand up. If you don't know how to digitally put your hand up physically. And away we go, Rupal, over to you, please.
Yeah, you put your hands up, or if you don't know how to do it. Yeah, thank you so much. I could relate to a lot of what you were saying. I was agreeing with a lot you were saying. I could, personally remember all the stuff that happened to me in terms of, fighting this cause of trying to keep a job, and what a nightmare it was, So having people like you helping make a massive, massive difference. I'm not going to go on about me, but thank you. Lots of people already with their hands up. Shall we go with John Abbott first? John?
Yeah, hello.
Hi, John.
Hi, Tracy. Thanks very much for the presentation. It's very helpful. It's just a quick question. I've got total, my balance organs on both sides are completely gone. So I was an electrical technician, so I'm never going to be able to do my job again. So basically what's happened is the company have put me over onto an insurance scheme that pays me half pay until I get 65.
Brilliant.
Have they got any? I mean, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky. It's something you never think you have to claim on, but I'm lucky in that respect. Have they got any obligation to try and offer me something different at work that obviously wouldn't require balance, or are they fulfilling their obligations that's in the contract that says if you're unable to do your job, we'll hand you over to an insurance company and they'll take you from there?
So yes, they should be looking for alternative employment for you. They should be redeploying you if it's a big company. So, I don't know who your employer is. I imagine that they're a corporate if they've got a PHI scheme.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's something that you can do and you're able to work, then they should be coming to you and saying, we've got this. Do you want a redeployment? Because that's much cheaper for them to have you working than claiming on their insurance scheme, because that's killing their premiums, John. So I would say that they should be having that conversation with you. However, I know realistically what happens is they'll get a report from you that you will have had that says you're unfit to work for the foreseeable future. Or I bet it will have had that phrase in there if you managed to get it through the insurance, which means that they've probably kind of thought, oh, okay, John's on the insurance now. He's done. He's gone. We'll kind of forget about John. And I mean that in the most loveliest and caring of ways, John. But that's the reality. So if you're feeling like you could do some work, then what you can do is contact them and say and explain what you feel like you could do, and ask them what the implications would be if you saw occupational health and got assessed again, what implications that would have for the insurance cover. Because what you don't want to do is lose the cover on the insurance because you're declaring yourself fit for work and then they've got nothing for you and you lose both. So it's worth
what they're worried about.
Yeah, it's worth having a chat with the HR team and seeing what they say, but do be really patient with them because your situation is very rare. So they might have to say, oh, I'll go and talk to somebody about that and come back to you. So don't expect an immediate answer because they might have to think about that for a bit.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
One of the issues, Tracy, is like when I applied for it, was employers just don't know about balance conditions, and I'm sure it's the same for lots of other conditions as well. I mean, is there nothing available for organisations, businesses, to where they can actually get that information? I know you talk about the occupational health, and that's probably the easiest and the best way. But I found that even occupational health quite often don't understand balance conditions. They don't actually have that experience, and that's exactly what happened to me. And I think there are other people I can see nodding and agreeing with that.
Yeah, and it's knowing just because I've got a balance condition, if anybody's knowledgeable at all, they become my best mate. So so the occupational health companies that we use, there's one called Workability Solutions that's amazing, absolutely amazing. And they're all over balance conditions. They're fantastic. Don't look at the website, it's not great, but but they are really, really good at what they do. And they're only a small company, but absolutely excellent. And it's about finding the right one. So I think that the more difficult challenge is when you're in a corporate and you've got in-house occupational health, then you haven't got a choice about where you go. And so that makes it harder, because if they don't know, it's almost your job to explain. But that's why good occupational health advisors don't they don't care about diagnosis. It doesn't matter. What they care about is symptoms and how it's impacting you. And that's what good occupational health advisors focus on, is what symptoms are you reporting to them and how does it impact you every day? And then they work off that. So they almost don't really need to know a lot about balance condition. They've just got to trust you when you're reporting your symptoms to them.
Yeah. Jess has said that it was the same for her, and she went off what her physio was saying, and occupational health just agreed to all of that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Joe, go to you next.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, sorry, is it me? Joe Watkins?
Yes, yeah, go ahead,
it's fooled me because that's my son when I've logged in. I'm Steve Watkins, but that's why I didn't answer. Hi there.
Oh, yeah.
Just a quick one. So I'm self-employed. I'm a tennis coach, but for the last 3 years, it's been getting progressively more difficult to do my job. And I'm at a point now where, although I do work at a big, I will mention them because they're good, David Lloyd, and they've been very supportive. So it's a big indoor tennis centre and company. But it's just the practicalities are that I've had to make a decision that I'm not going to carry on doing coaching because it's just too difficult. So my question is if I look to do something else, when I go for an interview, I've got to obviously find something I'm able to do. And by the way, I've got bilateral vestibular failure, triple PD and oscillopsia. So do I, when I have an interview, do I mention, I feel that I need to, because obviously it's going to affect me. Then I guess it'll affect whether they employ me or not. And, so I suppose that's the question really, is then what do I do? I suppose there's discrimination kind of thing, but I've never been employed before. I've always been self-employed, so.
Yeah. Okay, so I wouldn't mention it at interview, because what you want to do is get through that interview, get offered the job knowing that you're the best candidate for that job based on your skills and experience, right? Then when you're offered the job, what some employers do is they'll do pre-placement health questionnaire. So it's that questionnaire that you get when you go places. You'll know because you work at a gym. Have you had a heart condition? Have you had a stroke? Have you got cancer? The yes, no. So you'll get that, and there will be a section in there where you can disclose your balance condition. And that's when they do that, because you've ticked yes to something, that triggers the welfare meeting, the occupational health referral, all of that sort of stuff. If you just do that paperwork as soon as you possibly can, ideally before you start, they'll be able to put adjustments into place before your start date so that you can start go, or they'll be able to have a conversation with you where you both agree, actually, no, I can't do this job and there's nothing that you can do to help me. So you agree that it's not going to work. But I would go for the interview, not declare the health condition. And if they don't give you one of these pre-placement health questionnaires, because not all businesses do, if they don't, then before you start, you could contact them and say, look, just want to be open and honest with you. I've got this condition. This is how I think it will impact me in this job. This is what I might need. Do you want to have a chat about it?
Okay,
that would be my approach.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you. What I was going to ask there, though, is obviously an interview, one of the questions potentially would be, why are you changing career? Why are you, if you're a tennis coach for all these years, why are you doing something different? Again, it's how do you answer that? Just fancy the change.
Well, that's true. You do fancy a change. And
Yeah.
a really good way to answer that is that you want the stability of employment rather than being self-employed.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. That's helpful there. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
answer. Good answer, Tracy. Good one to remember. Can I just ask, we'll go to Simon in just a moment. Sorry, Simon, I know you had your hand up for ages. A question around that. So even at interview stage, they are allowed to, employers are allowed to ask you about your health?
No,
No, right.
they're
Okay.
not allowed, but they do.
Okay.
Employers aren't allowed to do all sorts of stuff, but they do it anyway. So especially if you've got a CV and you've got 2 or 3 years out, they'll always want to know what happened in that gap. They want to know if you're a woman, it means you've probably had children. If you're a man, it means you've probably gone to prison or you've got a health condition. So, you know, they always want to know, so they'll try and get it out of you. So employers that are in the know won't ask the question, but they'll ask around it. And employers that don't know and are completely ignorant will just go, well, what's been wrong with you? Tell me all about it. And then they won't give you the job because they don't want the hassle. So.
Tracy, can I just say you've blown my cover, because I used to in interviews say, no, I've had a balance condition for 4 years, just to hide the jail sentence.
Very good. Very good indeed.
Oh.
Shall we go to Simon? But before he asks his question, if there is anybody else that wants to ask a question, please, yeah, either stick your hand up so I can make a note of it, or do it digitally, please. Thank you. Simon.
I thought you were being horrible to Simon then. So
No,
before
not
we
at
go
all.
to Simon, is there anyone else so we
No.
can make Simon go last and make him wait longer?
Oh, he won't mind. No, no. God. Simon, it is your turn.
Floor is yours, Simon.
Go, Simon.
Super. It says my internet connection is playing up, so I'll have a go. On the slide for equality, is there a difference between a chronic illness and a disability, or under the Equality Act, are they both seen as the same?
Yeah, so the diagnosis almost doesn't matter. So
Right.
the technical language around it doesn't matter. If you have got a health problem that's affecting you day to day, regardless of its name, then you would be classed as having a disability for the purposes of the Equality Act.
Super.
So,
Yes.
you know, if you're going to try and claim disability benefits, DWP might argue differently, but for the purposes of the
Yes.
Equality Act and your rights and protections in terms of employment, if it's affecting you day to day and it's likely to last for longer than a year, then you'd be covered.
Yeah. Super. Yeah. So in my case, I suffer with vestibular migraine. On a good day, it's there, but it doesn't affect me. On a bad day, I struggle to crawl 2-3 yards to even get out of bed. So it's that it's that intermittency of not knowing until I wake up whether the day is a good day or a bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I imagine with your condition, every day you're always thinking about your triggers.
Oh, blimey, yes. Yeah, the anxiety runs. I turn around and I see a flashing light, or at the moment I've just been signed off for 2 weeks because I've had a sporadic number of attacks over the last fortnight. So at the minute the anxiety is up here, and hopefully when it comes back to normal, whatever normal is, then I'm able to fully function. But in the back of my mind, certainly, as you said about working on different floors or different offices, there are certain floors in our office where the anxiety is higher because I can't plan my crash route or my escape route. So even though my workplace are aware of it and I've got special provisions, I'm still looking for that area that's 8 foot by 3 foot on the floor where I can curl up in a ball and if anything happens. So yeah, no, I think the question, you've answered my question. So thank you very much. Really found it useful tonight.
I think it's a really good point, though, that you've raised, because actually, you know, you might, like I have with BPPV, I have a couple of episodes a year, but the anxiety is there all the time. And a lot of people with balance conditions, their anxiety might actually be the disability that's covered under the Equality Act,
right,
rather than the condition itself, because all of us constantly worry about when our next attack's going to happen. And where are we and what can we do and can we escape and am I safe and who's around me and are the kids with me and am I driving, and you know, it's relentless, right? So and that's why I say think about symptoms. Think about when you're thinking about whether or not you would have a disability for the purposes of the Act, it's about all of that, how it impacts you every day. And I'd say, Simon, certainly for you, I would say certainly that you would be covered and you would have protection, but and your employer knows about it, so you've done all the right things.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
And Simon, just explain this workplace passport a little.
So yes, when I came back, when after I had my first episode, I was off work for nearly 3 and a bit months. I went through occupational health and I got my diagnosis. And our employee relations and occupational health, myself and my boss all had a meeting. And they asked me for what reasonable adjustments were suitable at the time. And we have what we call a workplace passport. So that was agreed with my then line manager. And it's something I can take with me if I transfer departments, that says what my diagnosis is and what the bank have done to support me. So it's a semi-official document that means I haven't got to go through the internal red tape of asking for a different chair or a different monitor or a seat with no distractions on one side. What I'll do is I'll see if I can get a redacted or anonymized version and get it over to Kevin, so that we've got another, just something we can probably share as a resource. I don't think it's got any intellectual capital or property on it, but it's certainly, if I can get a redacted or a generic copy, I'll certainly send it across as sort of some useful resource.
It sounds like you're really lucky with your employer, Simon. They sound fab.
They have been really good, yes. Yeah.
Is that something that's available though, Tracy?
Yeah.
That to all, you talked about small businesses as well. Is that something that is available to them?
Well, in a small business, a workplace passport as such just wouldn't apply because they're small. So you tend to have, you know, 1 or 2 managers or business, or you report directly into the business owner, so they, you know, they all know what's going on. But certainly in a larger business where you might move between departments and managers, you move working for a manager that doesn't know you, you don't have to start the process from scratch. So it is common in larger corporates. If you've got a long-term condition, definitely, yeah.
Interesting.
They call them different names though.
Okay, that's
so,
probably
you
what
know,
it is. Yeah.
Simon knows it as a workplace passport. Another company might call it something else.
Yeah, no, it'd be very good. And Simon, do email what you can, and we'll put that on the webpage. Ruth, I've just got a couple of questions when I was listening to Tracy. Hopefully, we'll add to everyone's information. One of the slides, Tracy, you refer to if a welfare meeting is called.
Yeah.
That you should prepare.
Yeah.
Are there not circumstances where an employer would call a meeting, but they don't give you an agenda? So you kind of, it's difficult to prepare for because you might not know what they're going to ask, or are they obliged to tell you what they're going to ask you?
If they don't, I'm using my HR brain now. If an employer doesn't tell you what the meeting's for, it's usually not a good thing.
Yeah.
So,
but you know, your comment was always prepare.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for an ambush?
I think if in this scenario they would, if you've got less than 2 years service and your absence has been rubbish and they call you to a meeting and you don't know what it's for, you're probably going to get fired. Yeah. That's the reality. So
just a quick question on that. Am I still covered for discrimination against disability, even though I've worked less than 2 years?
Yes, you are, but your employer cannot discriminate against something they don't know about. So if you haven't told them that you've got a balance condition, so all they know is that you're just not coming into work, you're coming in late, you're a bit slow at your job.
Yeah, but I look fine.
But you look fine because we all look fabulous. Look at us all, we all look fabulous.
Yes.
So yeah, if you haven't told them, they wouldn't know. So they're just firing you on the basis that you just can't come to work.
So the moral of the story here is, if anyone ever gets called for a welfare meeting and they don't know what it's about, but they've got a balance condition, you quickly put in writing to your employer before the meeting, you've got a balance condition.
Yeah. And this is why I say it's just better to be upfront right from the start. Because it's stressful. It's stressful hiding stuff.
Yeah.
It is.
But also,
go on.
I was going to say, Tracy, it's also worth saying that you are entitled, you are allowed to bring somebody with you, take somebody with you to that meeting.
No.
No.
Really? Okay, that's interesting because
Yeah. So not to a welfare meeting, no. And when people in the past have asked me, because I call these meetings on behalf of clients all the time. So when in the past people have asked me if they can bring somebody with them, I usually let them if it's because they need the emotional support. So if they've recently been diagnosed with something, or they're really struggling and they feel like they can't get their point across, then I'll let them bring someone. And usually it's younger people. Younger people want mum.
And
They want to bring mum.
Tracy, just given that this could be potentially what I call an ambush on the employee,
Yeah.
unlike police interviews where I often say no comment, I'm assuming
Yeah.
I can't give that response in
So
such a welfare meeting.
I wouldn't see it as an ambush. I'd see it as a conversation. And so if they invite you to a meeting and they say, we're getting really fed up of you because you're not coming into work on time and you're never here, and when you are here, you're not focused, then I would just say, I've got a health condition. I'd really like to talk about this, but I really want to
Yeah.
spend some time preparing for this. So
Good.
can we
Yeah.
just put this on hold? Just let me
Perfect.
get my thoughts together.
Yeah.
I was aware that I wasn't on the top of my game, but didn't realize it was being noticed.
Yeah.
So can I just get my thoughts together and can we meet again tomorrow or whatever?
That's good. And I've just got one last point. What nobody knows on our Zoom meetings is we've got this magical ability to monitor everybody's pulse rate. And the pulse rate shot up like you wouldn't believe when you said, don't be surprised if you get dismissed for ill health. And that I'm just trying to clarify that you did go on to say you wouldn't get fired instantly following a welfare meeting.
Yeah.
But can you just give us some comfort that we've worked there for 2 years or not, we've got a balance condition, we've been honest in a welfare meeting. I don't know, an example, I am I don't know, I go up ladders and clean windows, and I've got a balance condition. So my employer could turn around and say, you can't do that job anymore. What protection have I got? None? Or does it depend if I work for a large or a small company?
No, you've still got protection from unfair dismissal. So is my camera frozen?
Yes.
For everybody else? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. So I'm just sitting there looking like really smug and smiling when we're
Yes.
talking about people getting
Yes.
dismissed.
Yes.
Okay, you're gonna have to pretend that my face looks solemn.
Try switching your camera off and then back on, and it may revive it.
Oh God, I'm scared that my
Don't worry,
gone
stop
a bit
video
weird.
and start.
It won't let me do that. Oh,
No.
you're just
All
gonna
right,
have
well,
to deal with my smug face, but I can still talk if you can still hear me.
yeah, we can hear you.
Now I've completely forgotten what the question was. We were talking about dismissals, weren't we?
Yeah,
So
it was saying collectively, I think we're all going, oh my goodness, there's one reason not to be honest
yeah.
and have a welfare meeting, because one of the outcomes is I might get sacked. And
Yeah,
I'm just trying to see if there is a slightly softer version of that, but there is a process. I have got some sort of protection.
You do, and the thing is, in a small employer, I see this where employers panic and they just go, oh, we can't deal with this, we're going to have to let you go, it's too much. And the reality is then you've got a claim for unfair dismissal and you've got a claim for disability discrimination. But what you usually do is you go to ACAS or you go to a lawyer and they get in touch with your employer, and then you get reinstated because the employer realizes that they made a bad decision in the heat of the moment, and then you work it all out. But you do have protection at that point, and you can bring a tribunal claim. What usually happens in 90% of cases is that you will have gone through that occupational health process. You will have had loads of conversations with your employer, with your manager, with the business owner, whoever it is, and you'll have that occupational health report that says that you're unfit to work for the foreseeable future. You will have had a meeting with your employer where you'll have talked through that report, and the conversation will have been, occupational health are telling us there's nothing you can do, there are no adjustments, that you're not fit for work. we're going to have to consider terminating your employment. And then after that, you'll get a letter that says, these are all the things we've tried to do to maintain your employment, but none of it's worked. Therefore, we now have to terminate your employment, and we're inviting you to a final meeting to talk about that. So it will never be a surprise that you get dismissed.
Good.
Because there will have been so many conversations that lead up to that point. It won't be a surprise for you. You'll be fully expecting it. And when you go to that final meeting, it's an admin. It's in your mind, it's admin. It's just, yeah, it's a process. Okay, I know I'm not going to have a job after today, but let's go and, follow through the process.
Yeah, brilliant.
So,
okay,
yeah.
that answers that, Tracy. Thanks.
I
Rupal?
didn't mean to
Thanks.
scare everybody. I'm sorry. Heart rate's down, please.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Sandy very briefly. I think Sandy had made a comment in the chat, and she is in the US. So Sandy, just briefly tell us what the situation was there for you. We can't hear Sandy. Can I? I can't hear Sandy for some reason.
She's not muted, but your microphone's not working.
No.
Sandy, tell you what, we'll try and come back to you if we just you fiddle around with that microphone. Rupal, I can see Jess.
Yes, I know. There's Jess, and I also want to ask Naomi to join. So Jess, you next. That's all right.
Yeah, it was just dwelling on what you were just saying then. So I've been off for 7 months, gone back, phased return, managed a month, and then the past 2 weeks I've had another flare-up of BPPV, which is not my main issue. My main issue is BVH. So that's exacerbated the oscillopsia, so I've not been able to go to work. Now, HR have been amazing. I've gone through Occy Health. I've done all that. But do we get to a point where, is there a sort of threshold where if you've had so much time off or it's lasted for like more than a year, is that when they're going to start getting funny with me, or?
It completely depends, Jess. It completely depends on the job you do, the size of the business, how are they covering your work? What kind of business are you in? Can you share a bit more?
I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher in a
in a high school.
Yeah, I think we've lost
Is she gone?
altogether.
Yeah, I think we've lost her altogether.
She may be trying to come back in. So if anybody's any good at singing, now's your chance. 2 minutes. Hopefully she'll rejoin us. I would just try and message her on WhatsApp. I tell you what, I don't know. Is Andy, your camera's off, but are you listening? Are you there? Or are you taking the dog for Andy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here,
Yeah, Andy, do you mind just sharing with me something you invited me to see a few years ago now, a lovely example of how your employer worked with you when you announced that you'd got your balance condition?
Yeah, but it's taken a turn for the worse the last couple of weeks.
Well,
we've had a lot of changes there. We've had about 2 restructures since you last came in.
Yeah.
And,
the bit, Andy, I'll tell you the bit that was of interest is initially how the process worked, where you got to share information about your condition, and how that, if we just talk about that, and then we'll probably pick up on the more recent news offline and see if we can add that to the web page. But if you just talk us through that early process a few years ago.
Yeah, basically, I work at PA Housing in Leicester. Basically, when I started there, someone I used to work with in another housing association was my manager, and he knew all about my condition, and he took me on. I've had years now for 20 odd years. The condition got worse, and I basically was very open with PA Housing about the condition, how it affected me. They sent me for an occupational health appointment. They came back with all the recommendations. I also approached access to work, and basically I've got my own office. I've got £7,000 worth of equipment, which was a movable desk, a chair, loads of hearing equipment, Can't remember what that's called now, because I've not used it in a while. But yeah, up until a couple of weeks ago, they've been very good.
Yeah,
Just
no, that's good.
providing everything I need.
Andy, I'll chat with you later about the recent events and see whether we can use that sort of on our website as well. But thanks for just sharing that with us. I thought it was an excellent example of a proactive employer. And again, what Tracy mentioned, who is now back in the room, but Tracy did mention this thing about it's all about reducing our anxiety and stress at work, which that sort of process seems to do. But thanks for sharing that, Andy. We'll go back to Tracy now. She's here. Thank you.
We
Sorry, I
missed,
don't know what happened. It died some, and I was in the middle of talking to Jess, and I'm so sorry, Jess.
It's okay.
did you catch Jess's question, Tracy?
Yeah, so Jess is a teacher. Have you been there, Jess?
10 years.
10 years.
Mm.
And you months.
Yeah.
And then you came back a couple of weeks, and then you had a big flare up,
Yeah.
and now you're off again, and you're worried how long they're going to.
Yeah, I think it's just how long are they going to put up with it, I guess, until.
For a while. So you've been there 10 years, you've got length of service. School or state school?
State school.
So they will take ages. The processes you have to go through to get the teacher. You're all right.
Okay, that's a relief.
Don't worry.
You.
You can breathe out for a bit and relax.
Good, thanks.
You. Naomi. Great question from Naomi on the chat box. Are you able to ask it yourself?
Need to unmute Naomi.
Maybe she doesn't want to ask.
She's
there she is. There she is.
She's here.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't realize. So yeah, I've been out of work and then I've been trying to get into work or try different ways of start working. I did start my teacher training as well, and then had to stop. That was in secondary school. But yeah, I just want to know how many people are actually currently working. How many people have had to take up? What's the average time people are taking off of work, and what kind of roles and hours people are actually doing, so I can kind of look into a career path that's gonna maybe work, maybe one I haven't even thought of at all. Because I'm looking into loads of different avenues. I want to work, but I'm not sure what would work. And I feel like someone might say something and I'll be like, oh great, actually I didn't think about studying and doing that or something. I don't know. But yeah, any help is great. Thank you.
Shall we kick off with you, Kevin, briefly then? Are you working?
I'm working. I'd say, no, it's really difficult because it's down to individual symptoms. And as we said, whether is it every day? Are these intermittent attacks? The bit I would say is the pandemic, awful. One of the big benefits from that has been the normality now of working from home, and many new jobs being available, where you can literally work from home, use a computer, be on video. So I think there's more opportunities where you don't physically have to even leave the house. And a lot of it really will come down to what you're comfortable with doing. Part of what I would say, because I've had some members before saying they didn't want to put themselves out there and fail, but I'm the other way around, thinking you've got to try and steel yourself to try things, or you're never going to know. And I know that's difficult in a work environment, but it's almost trying to, if you've got your eye on a certain particular job, whether you can get into a test of that environment and feel, a silly example, if it was working in a store, how are you in stores, or is that busy environment awful with all the visual things going on? But my first default position is what's out there that you can do remotely, where you may not have to even leave the home to be in gainful employment. But honestly, it's a really hard one because we've all got slightly different symptoms and then skill sets. Rupal, what about yourself? Your thoughts?
For me, the first time round was as somebody who was in radio, is still in radio to some extent, I ended up sort of doing stuff from home. I did a lot of stuff from home, mainly sort of looking at what my skills are. And I particularly felt that I didn't have any skills apart from speaking at the time. So it was kind of looking at doing voiceovers and things like that. So I did that kind of sort of freelancing work. I was offered freelance presentation as well. So I was able to kind of go back, but I didn't have the same sort of pressures. And then did sort of hosting, which I still do, hosting events and things like that. But what I liked about it was the fact that I was able to control how many hours I worked, if I wanted to take on the work, depending on how I felt as well. Financially, it was always, it is difficult, but my husband is working full time, I was working full time. So I think I had that bit of backup, but remotely was definitely my first immediate port of call.
Naomi, I'd say one thing, because I've done it with a few members. If you want to email me later in the week, what I do often as a one-to-one is just go through what's your skill sets and try and get you to think sort of out of the box as to what you might like to consider and having a go at. So it's one of my few benefits of being around for so many years. I've seen a few different jobs, so the offer's there. If you want to email me, we can sort of have a session of trying to think creatively.
No, that'd be great. Thank you.
I don't. It depends what benefits people are on, etc. But another great way back in is part-time if it works financially, which is a lovely halfway house when you've not been working, because whatever people say with a balance condition, there is this extra physical strain of physically going in to do things. A hard day's work to someone without a balance condition is a very, very hard day's work to someone with a balance condition. But I say the offer's there to you and anyone. If we can bounce around ideas, that's great. That's
Thanks, Kevin. Should we? Is there anyone else that wants to share and answer Naomi's question quickly? Is there anyone else?
No.
I think there's something on online as well. No, that was a reply to Jess's question. So Jess, do have a quick look on there. I just wanted to catch up with Sandy to see if we can hear her quickly, just to experience what it was like on the other side of the world.
Does it work now?
Yes, yeah,
yes.
We can hear you.
Hey.
Well, what I had going on was a real nightmare. Like I put in the chat that in New Jersey, we have what's called the at-will termination, where I was I'm an oral surgery assistant and was working for a pretty big practice. And they had me running around like a chicken with my head cut off. So you can just imagine what the situation was. But what you call meetings there, I believe we had reviews, and I never worked in an office where we had reviews because I was working for one doctor for 30 years. We didn't have any reason for them. So they would mark all of their reviews poorly, lying, but they would just put poor, everything was poor. I did this poor, I couldn't do this, or I couldn't do that, and la-di-da. So they had proof, even though they were lies. When they terminated me, if there were any questions, if I went to sue them, whatever, they would have their proof that, well, she couldn't do this, she couldn't do that, and the reviews were on paper. So, like I read,
we hear it across this side of the water as well, that there's so many employees that they're just not interested in fair play. They just want to get rid of people. But this fortunate, I think we're slightly better protected in the UK compared to a lot of the states in America. where we do at least have these regulations and the discrimination, various discrimination acts. But it's where people like Tracey come in and helping us unpick this. As I say, I keep saying this, the last thing we need when we're down with a balance disorder is a battle royal with our employer. We just don't need it. And my hope is, future people with balance conditions, they'll refer their employers to watch this video. Where again, I just happen to mention, don't discriminate against disabilities because you'll be up against unlimited damages. So it pays to look after loyal employees. But we know it's real world. We know where it's a small company, it's harder to adjust. We get that. But we do need fair play. But I think, Sandy, thanks for your comment there. I think, Tracey, it's been a brilliant session. And the video is going to help an awful lot of people when they watch this. And it's so good of you to offer these future help with one-to-one sessions. And we will look to get a web page up in the next few weeks with your help. That's great. Rupal, any last comments from you?
No, I think a great suggestion, Naomi, on chat with regards to being self-employed and teaching, qualifying tuition, online tuition, is a suggestion for you. Hopefully that helps.
Thanks everyone for tuning in, the questions, it's been really good. And again, Trace, thanks so much for giving up your time.